All right, yo, what up, everybody? What's up? Welcome inside Sportstopia Fantasy Fire and Ice NBA edition. It's me, Corey Parson. Again, I just did the baseball show, same guy. You know what I'm saying? I teleported to the basketball side of the studio, and I got my homies with me, the good Dr. Stephen A. Dr. A, my man, what's going on, and obviously making his, I believe, Sportstopia debut is my good friend, Jovan Alford. Coming up on the program today, we're going to break down and talk about the Atlantic Division, help you in your sports betting and your fantasy basketball research for the upcoming season. Doc, what's going on with you, my man?
Well, I was driving home from Indiana on Sunday.
Love
it's
it.
like a 9-hour drive, and I had the fantasy football show on my phone, and they had Shefty on there, and the host of the show was like, "Dude, how are you talking to me right now and retweeting Adrian Wojnarowski at the exact same time?" He's like, "Well, when Woj drops a bomb, I gotta tweet it." So then I told my wife, I'm like, get on Twitter and see what Woj just did. And that's how I found out about the Jrue Holiday to the Celtics trade. So I haven't had much time to research or to think about it because I was driving, but that was a pretty big Woj bomb.
Definitely was. Jovan, what's going on with you, my man?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, doing well. So we'll get ready to get in here. Going to spend some time today talking about the Atlantic Division. And I'm looking at the Atlantic Division, and I'm thinking to myself, so I hate 2 teams in the Atlantic Division, and sometimes I hate 3 teams in the Atlantic Division. And I'll let you know who that third team is. Don't think I'm going to hate them this year. But you talked about it, Doc, and I'll start with you. We mentioned the trade with Jrue Holiday. Listen, I love the you know how NBA trade, right? I want out of here. Right? I'm not coming. I'm not playing. I want out of here. And then I tear the whole thing down, and it takes years for the team to rebuild. I like how Portland played this one. Not only did they, throw a shot at the Miami Heat, but they effectively built their team and then put the 2 other best players on the Miami Heat's rival teams in the Eastern Conference, Doc. So shout out to the Portland Trailblazers for getting Ayton, getting the Time Lord, getting those picks, and throwing a jab at the Miami Heat by putting putting Dame on the Bucks and putting Jrue Holiday on the Boston Celtics, who I think Holiday on the Celtics is a better play than Kristaps Porzingis on the Celtics.
I mean, it's big. The guy plays defense. He's been in the league a long time. He's going to play with Jalen and Tatum, and really rounds out that Celtics team. And I'm kind of sad, I'm kind of pouring one out for Derek White this morning. I was all fired up to see Derek White become a fantasy phenom this year as the starting point guard for the Celtics. Probably not going to happen now. He's going to be in a backup role. But tell you what, man, if Porzingis can stay healthy, that team is going to be top to bottom starting 5. It's pretty solid. Al Horford, 50 years old, but still effective. It's pretty sweet move for the Celtics, I think.
Joe, when you look at the trade, you go ahead and break that down for fantasy purposes. How does Jrue Holiday slot in and fit in now that he is a Boston Celtic, and is he somebody that you think will get the kind of numbers that fantasy managers are expecting from the defensive guard?
I would think so. I mean, you look at just his numbers from last season. He averaged 19.3 points per game, 7.4 assists, 5.1 rebounds per game, which were basically his career highs in Milwaukee. And he haven't did that since since his days with the Pelicans. So you think he goes into a better situation, not even a better situation because he's playing with Giannis and Chris Middleton, but he goes to a spot where he has Tatum and Brown, which are going to take most of the shots. But I think we could probably see higher assist numbers because he's going to be playing with those guys, and those guys have stayed healthy for the most part. So I think, if you're looking for that solid veteran guard that, shot almost 50% from the field and almost shot 40% from 3, you got to take it. I think out of the options that might be around where his ADP is slotted at, you can't go wrong with him because he's going to be consistent. He's going to give you stats defensively, and then offensively, he's probably one of the more consistent veteran guards right now in the NBA.
All right, there you go, right there. Definitely, you know what I'm saying. Like I said, I think it's a good move for the team. So what I want to do here as we get ready to preview the conference. I mean, the Atlantic Division, the Eastern Conference Atlantic Division. I'm gonna go start with the team that has the lowest win total, the Toronto Raptors, then work my way back up to the Boston Celtics. And in between time, we'll touch on everybody else and get that in. Try and look at these teams and break this down. Doc, when you start with Toronto, they come into the season win total 36.5. I always go over on the Raptors win total because I think the Raptors are a team that's kind of been built pretty solid. Now, this year, they don't have Nick Nurse, and Nick Nurse is a big part of what they've done the past years, but you know the particulars. OG Anunoby, Scotty Barnes, what's my man name?
Pascal Siakam.
Pascal Siakam, Gary Trent Jr., even got my man from Harlem, Marquise Noel, on the team this year. Don't expect much from him as a young player. But when you look at the Toronto Raptors, I believe they got that guy that was the Grizzlies' assistant, Darko Raj. I don't even go try to pronounce his last name. You guys know who I'm talking about, though, Doc. What do you think the Toronto Raptors coming into the season? No Fred VanVleet, who was one of my favorite fantasy guys from years past.
Well, while we're pouring one out for Derek White, we do not have to pour one out for Dennis Schroeder yet. Dennis Schroeder just will not go away. Right now, he's the starting point guard in Toronto, as hard as that is to believe. And every year, I feel like Dennis Schroeder is going to go away and we'll never see him again. And then he ends up starting somewhere for somebody somehow. So I think Schroeder, fantasy-wise, is going to be a pretty fun mid to late round point guard pick, especially if they don't make any more moves, because I know Malachi Flynn's not going to get that job, and I don't think the Raptors want to give it to Scotty Barnes. So, and I think, speaking of Scotty Barnes, I think he's the big question mark in Toronto. I think how Scotty Barnes goes is how Toronto will probably go. We know OG Anunoby is going to be solid. We know Pascal Siakam is going to do what he does. I think OG Anunoby is also a good fantasy sleeper because he's not flashy. He's not all over the headlines, but his numbers are rock solid across the board. Very fantasy friendly game. So if Scotty Barnes can blossom this season and really turn the corner and take another step for Toronto, I think they're going to be better than people think they're going to be.
Yeah. What do you think, Jovan? What's up with the Raptors coming into this season?
I think, like you said, their win total 36. I think they can definitely get over that number just because they still have, most of their offense still intact. Like you said, losing Fred VanVleet's a noticeable loss because offensively, he's showed Schroeder's not the guy that VanVleet is, even though Schroeder, I think, showed in the World Cup that he can be that guy. But I don't know if that's going to translate over into this new Raptors team. So I like their over on their win total. And I agree. I agree with the doc. It's going to be up to, Scotty Barnes. Can he take that leap offensively? Because we know he can do everything else all around, rebound, dish out the assists. Can he take that step offensively? Is probably what's going to help unlock this team, because like you said, we know what we're going to get from Siakam. We know what we're going to get, from Anunoby and even Gary Trent, right? When Trent's on, he can light it up any given night. So I think for them, like you said, it's going to be up to see what Scotty Barnes does for them to, hopefully get past that 36 number. And maybe if they do get past that number, then you possibly looking at them playing themselves back into a playing tournament spot.
Yeah, and then, look at Siakam coming off really the best season of his career after having a year where people's kind of up and down, back and forth. So interesting to see how that team shakes out and develops as we go through over the course of the season. But Doc, with this new coach, though, is it something that we should be looking at fantasy wise as far as rotations, minutes, style of play, or you just think he plays it straight up?
I think he's going to play it pretty straight. I mean, Nick Nurse played it pretty straight. I don't think there's any rocket science here. I was always mad at Nick Nurse because he never played Chris Boucher enough for my liking. So good riddance, Nick. But and Boucher is like 30, 31 now. So I think that ship has probably sailed. But I don't think so. I mean, I don't think you overanalyze this. You're going to play – if the team stands – opening night, like it stands right now, Schroeder, Anunoby, Barnes, Siakam, and a guy we haven't mentioned yet, Jakob Poeltl. And those guys are going to get all the minutes. They're going to get a bulk of them, and that's who you roll with. And the Fred VanVleet loss is big. I do think it just means more opportunity for Anunoby and Siakam to be even better, and it also clears the way for Barnes to have the ball in his hands a lot more than he has in the past. So all in all, I mean, I'm kind of excited about this Raptors team.
That's interesting. What about Precious? Nobody, Javon? No, nothing. Nobody's Precious. No, just giggles.
I mean,
What?
I mean, it's tough. I mean, for what we saw from him in his rookie year, it was solid. And then even last year he played well, but again, consistency is the key. Like, can Precious be consistent? And that's the biggest question. Can this new coaching staff kind of unlock him? Which, nursing company weren't able to do. So, I mean, maybe, but then, like you said, you do got Chris Boucher, you got Jalen McDaniels, who they added in free agency. Yeah. So who knows what you're going to get from him.
Dr. Patel, watch out for John Morant. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to put yourself back in that situation again. You know what I mean? You get yourself on a poster out there. Listen, as far as the Raptors, right? Just a 7, 8, 9 team in the Eastern Conference. You know what I'm saying? Just that's kind of where they are. I take the over on the win total, maybe to make a playoff wager, something that's interesting. Doc, let me ask you this, and then Javon, I'll pose the same question to you. The in-season tournament, do you think this is going to be helpful for fantasy as far as saying, okay, well, I feel pretty good about the guys being out there at least on Thursday and Friday night? Like, or you think it makes no difference, Doc?
I don't know that it makes any sense. Like, I haven't even really sat down to study like when it is and what it is. Like, these guys are already having trouble staying on the court for their 82 regular season games. And now we want to add more tournament play in the middle of it. We're already, making rules about having to appear on national TV and load management. They're trying to, get away from that a little bit. And so I honestly, Corey, I have not sat down and thought, oh man, I got to dig into this in-season tournament. I'm so excited about it. Like, I honestly could not care less as of right now. Now, I'm sure once it gets here, I'll get fired up about it, but I haven't really checked it out.
Javon, they're going to market it good because that's what they do. And when you look at it, kind of reading through it and looking at the style of the tournament and the format, it's really kind of 2 nights a week. You're playing against teams you would normally play against. With the changes, the season will kind of pause on
December, right?
December 6th, 7th, and 8th. The season will kind of come to a pause those 3 nights. There'll be a championship game in Vegas on the 7th, which is normally the night of the Heisman Trophy. So you don't have no college football, nothing to deal with. You got you got Army, Navy in the daytime, and then you got the night to yourself kind of in the NBA. So basically it's a made-for-television event, you know what I'm saying? But do you think it will help? Because, they got the load. See, they think the load management is what's causing the ratings to drop. You know what I'm saying? Because people tune into the game. They don't know who's playing or not. I don't really think that's it, to be honest with you. I think people look at it different ways to watch the basketball game. But I think you think this helps get people on the court and makes it a little bit easier for fantasy owners?
I don't know necessarily if it helps people get on the court because, I don't think
care.
Right. I don't even think the financial incentive is like, hey, we're going to give you like X amount of dollars so you guys can like play in the tournament. And it's mostly regular season games. Like, like you said, Thursday, Friday, like you're playing teams within your group, right? You're playing like the Pistons and the Pacers. So I guess you expect like, all right, in case nobody's hurt, like nobody's load management in like November, because I think that's when the tournament play begins in November, then you should be fine fantasy wise. Now, when tournament gets out of group play and into the tournament play in December, I don't know like how you cross that bridge when you get there to see who's playing, who's not playing in those, because I think those are basically single elimination every night. So yeah.
Shortest odds to win the in-season tournament is the Milwaukee Bucks at plus 950. Now, I did look at these groups because, I like to wager on things, right? And I will tell you guys, I do have a group winner that I think is going to be a plus money group winner. As soon as I can find the group, I'll tell you, gentlemen, right? It is the group, not group B. It is group A. Yes, group A. Group A has the 76ers, the Cavaliers, the Hawks, the Pacers, and the Pistons. Right? I give you a little fantasy executive. I take the 550 with the Pacers to come out the group. I think the Pacers are going to be a good team this year. With that being said, Dr. A, Let's go to one of the hated East Atlantic Division teams that I'm not a fan of. They play in Brooklyn. They tried to move in and steal the New York City fan base. It did not work. They tried to build a super team. It did not work. They let Kyrie Irving and crew, James Harden with the fat suit, tear the team down. Now they got to give the team back to Jacques Vaughn and say, fix it. After experimenting with they should have kept the team the way it was. Darius Baisley, Mikal Bridges, Amani Brooks, Nic Claxton, Noah Clowney, Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, Cam Johnson, Harry Giles, Royce O'Neal, Daron Sharp, Ben Simmons, Dennis Smith Jr. Wow. DSJ still in the mix. Cam Thomas, Lonnie Walker, Trendon Watford, Dariq Whitehead, Jalen Wilson. Doc, this is the Brooklyn Nets. The win total is 37.5. I know you're a big Mikal Bridges guy. Anything else you like on this roster?
I like Cam Johnson.
Okay.
Cameron Johnson with no KD should be fun. I think he's a breakout candidate, sleeper candidate, whatever you want to call him. Mikal Bridges, I am fired up about Bridges, although my initial fired upness has calmed down a little bit just because I don't know how much better he can be than he was last year. So I think we may have seen peak Mikal Bridges, or at least close to it. He's going to have to steal the ball more, and for him to get better, I think he was scoring 26 a game for Brooklyn. He's going to have to up that to like 28 to 30 to really take a leap into the second round fantasy value. So not quite as excited about Bridges as I was. I think I still want to draft him. I don't know if you can take him in the second round, and I think you got to target him third or fourth round. Let somebody else reach if they want to take him that early. Ben Simmons, he's going to be sitting there, guys, when we do our fantasy basketball drafts this year. He's going to be available round 10, round 9, round 11. Even then, I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I could like live with myself or sleep at night if I had Ben Simmons on my fantasy team again this year. But I mean, he's going to be very, very tempting in round 10.
Yeah, no, he's got to be. Obviously, you know what he can do statistically. You know what his stats can look like. Ben Simmons, we're talking about right now. But you also know that he can sit on the sideline in $2,000 outfits with $70,000 worth of jewelry on. You know what I'm saying, Javon? That could happen as well. How are you handling Ben Simmons when you're on the clock?
It's tough.
As a Philadelphia 76ers supporter, right? Will Ben Simmons be on any of your fantasy teams?
I mean, if we get to the end of the round and he's still sitting there, you know, he might be worth a flyer just because when Ben Simmons plays, and if he's anything like we saw, you know, not his last year or whatever you want to call it in Philly, if he's like anything close to what we saw before then, where he could like stuff the stat sheet, then then he might be worth the flyer. But I think when it comes to Ben Simmons, it's a wait and see. You got to see it to believe it first. Like if that means like letting him hit waivers and then picking him up, then so be it. Because you got to see him actually play. We got to see. We don't even know how he's going to play with this group of Nets, right? We only saw him play with the KD Kyrie Nets. Like, how does he fit in with this team? Because you already got a ball handler in Spencer Dinwiddie. You got DFS at the power forward. You got Claxton at the center. Where does Ben Simmons kind of fit into the equation of what this new Nets team is going to be?
I think if Ben Simmons comes in mentally healthy, physically healthy, and wants to actually play basketball, which I don't foresee that happening, but if it did, I mean, Dorian Finney-Smith for me is out of there, and Ben Simmons is starting at power forward for me. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say I will not have Ben Simmons on any of my fantasy teams this year. And you know, did you guys hear he's been in the lab working on his 3-point shot? That's what they've been telling us for the last 5 years. I've still never seen the man shoot a three. In
preseason, he did. In preseason,
I just don't think he cares. I just don't think he cares about playing basketball much. I think his life goal was to be a number 1 pick in the NBA. Mission accomplished, and this is where we're at. So,
hey, Javon, as far as Mikal Bridges go, like a lot of early ADP is all over the place, right? We did one last week they had Donovan Mitchell as a back of the first round guy. where ADP currently stands, right? It's a little bit of it might have been very limited drafts. Bridges is on a 2-3 turn. That's too high.
Yeah, considering the players that are there, but I think knowing what we saw from him last season when he got there, and even the postseason, like he's going to get majority of the shots, like focal point of the offense. Like he's going to be that guy. But like the doc says, like if this what we saw last year, is this his peak, right? Is this who he is? Like, can he get better than what he did last year? So it's tough because you want to pick him, but you don't know what he's going to become. But at the same time, he's going to get a lot of the shots there outside of Cameron Johnson. Like Bridges is your first, Cam is your second, and Dinwiddie's like your third scoring option. So it's tough, but if there's nobody better there, then you take the shot on him because he's going to get the attempts.
And
Corey,
go ahead. My point is, like, even for his 25 games he played in Brooklyn, I think he was high 4th round value, right? Fantasy value.
Yeah.
So first of all, it's a small sample size. Second of all, he was peak Mikal Bridges during that time.
He was at his best. Yeah.
I mean, his best was early 4th. So for him to get to round 2 value, I mean, we're talking 30 points, 1.5 steals, more threes, more everything. And I love the guy, but I don't know that he can do it. And the interesting thing about Bridges is I think his most valuable fantasy asset is the fact he doesn't miss games and he's hell-bent on playing every single game again this year. Like that's his shtick. He's like the new Cal Ripken of basketball, and he just wants to go out there and play every single night and ball out. So, look, round 3, I'm good. Round 4, I'm great. Round 2, I just think it's a little reachy on Bridges.
All right, and you go right there. Any love for Nic Claxton?
I think there's some value just because what he did last season in an extended role as being mostly a full-time starter, I think he's a guy that can get to an average a double-double. I think he's going to come close this season just because of the point guard that he's playing with, and Spencer Dinwiddie, who's more of a pass first, second scorer type of guard. So I think there could be some value in Claxton just from the rebounding aspect because he did last season have some monster rebound games, and he's also defensively with his blocks. The problem is just can he stay out of foul trouble? I think that's going to be the big thing for him.
I mean, let's look at his numbers real quick. Rookie year, 4.4 points, then 6.6, 8.7, 12.6. His blocks went from 0.5 to 1.3 to 1.1 to 2.5 last year. That's massive. The rebounds went 3, 5, 5, 9. Like he had a mini blow up last year. I think we're talking about a guy entering near year 5 on a team that really doesn't have, like, DFS is not a big time scorer. Dinwiddie's not a big time scorer. I think there's plenty of room for Nic Claxton to blow up this year. I really kind of like him as a sleeper center.
Yeah, I think Nic Claxton is that's why I kind of brought him up. I think Nic Claxton is an interesting player, particularly when you look at position value and stuff like that. That win total at 37.5, to me, that's right on the number. So it would really be no play. Jovan, you're not interested in no.
Nah.
I don't really have you as a Brooklyn Net guy, to be honest with you.
I like Bridges. I love Bridges, but
Mikal Bridges is a Philadelphia dude, right?
Yeah.
Oh, he went to Villanova.
Yeah, suburbs guy. Yeah.
What, you Philadelphia dudes? The suburbs. Like, what I'm saying?
No, for real.
But y'all count Kobe Bryant, though, right? But that's a suburb as well, though.
I mean, most.
Oh, you don't count Kobe?
No, I do.
Okay. All right. Just making sure. The other team, and this is the team in the in the Atlantic Division that I have a love-hate relationship with. It is the New York Knicks, my childhood team. Also, the team that caused me a lot of heartache and pain in said childhood, and the 30 years of futility I gave up. And more recently, I've been kind of like, hey, you know what? These dudes don't look half bad. It's Jalen Brunson. I shout out to the organization for not running Julius Randle, even though the fans even though he probably couldn't have walked the streets in New York City and last spring after the playoffs ended. But it's Brunson, it's Randall. We know Emmanuel quickly. Obviously, Isaiah Roby's a good player too. Isaiah Roby, Jericho Sims, Jacob Toppin, Dwayne Washington Jr., Dylan Whitler, who was John Morant's rival in college, Miles McBride, Jalen Martin, Nathan Knight, Daquan Jeffries, Isaiah Hartston, Josh Hart, Quentin Grimes, Evan Fournier on the bench, Dante DiVincenzo, another Villanova guy to go along with Brunson, Brown Jr., Barrett, and Ryan Arsenio. The New York Knicks win total set at 45.5. The Knicks will probably win either 45 or 6 games or 46 games this year. Doc, when you look at the New York Knicks coming into the season, it's Jalen Brunson, it's Julius Randle, and what else?
Well, that's the question. Is R.J. Barrett a good basketball player? I don't know.
No.
I mean,
sorry.
He's a volume shooter, ball in his hands, messing things up kind of guy. So I don't think you can draft RJ Barrett in a fantasy basketball league. Like you see him score, like he's on SportsCenter, he's scoring 26, and you're like, how bad can this guy be? And then you really dive into the numbers, and he'll bring down your whole team by himself. Then you got Mitchell Robinson. Is he good?
I forgot Mitchell Robinson, yeah.
Is he good? I don't know. I mean, we thought he was going to be awesome. 5 years ago, we were hyping him up and drafting him in the second, third, fourth round, and he just never has really lived up to the hype. You got Randall. We know what he can do. He's a good player. And then, this shooting guard situation. You got Quickly, who was almost sixth man of the year last year, also backup point guard. You got DiVincenzo, new addition. He's nice. You got Quentin Grimes, you got Josh Hart. Like there's so many moving pieces there, and so many things you do. I don't even know what to think. But as far as the Knicks in general, I'd probably take the under on that win total.
Oh, it's interesting. Under on the Knicks win total. I was not expecting that from Dr. A. Go ahead, Javon. Your thoughts on the Knicks? I thought this is go ahead.
Yeah, no, for the Knicks, I mean, what they were able to do in Jalen Brunson's first year, it was impressive, and for them finally getting that point guard, definitely took them leaps and bounds to where they were in previous seasons. I think, fantasy wise, a guy like Josh Hart's always intriguing, just because he's not going to score a lot, but just he can fill up the box, the stat sheet in multiple spots, rather you need points, rebounds, assists. Like I just remember playing him in DFS a lot of times that he would just put up these just ridiculous numbers just because what he was able to do, just grabbing 10 boards or, getting a bunch of assists. So I think guys like Josh Hart, want to see how DiVincenzo kind of fits in to what they do there, because his role has kind of changed everywhere he's been. Like Milwaukee was one way, Golden State, he kind of became more of a scorer there where they needed him to be. So hopefully if you're, a Knicks fan, you hope that continues, where he brings that, shooting prowess off the bench, because he can score when given the opportunity. But yeah, going back to, the first conversation, RJ Barrett, like what does he do? Right? Yeah. Like, will he shoot, 10 to 20 from the field, or will he be like 1 for 10 and, looking like a shell of himself? Or will he play like the guy that we see in the World Cup? That's going to be the biggest question for if the Knicks want to, get out of the first round into the second round.
We'll see what happens this season. I think it's going to be interesting. I think the Knicks could have beat Boston last year, to be 100% honest with you. They played Boston well in the regular season. I didn't think Boston got great until they won those 3 games versus Miami. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Another team let's go quickly. Let's run through these last 2 Atlantic Division teams. Philadelphia 76ers, Doc, win total set at 49.5. We talked about it last week. Nick Nurse is supposed to be the guy that gets Joel Embiid playing 70, 72 games a year.
Well, I wish you would have done that with Chris Boucher in Toronto. But the big headline out of Philly today is James Harden is not at Media Day. Not to anyone's shock or surprise. I don't know when we're going to see James Harden there. If James Harden is not there, Tyrese Maxey and DeAnthony Melton are both going to be fantasy kind of mini monsters. Tobias Harris. Go ahead.
Would you rather have Tyrese Maxey or Jordan or Jordan Poole?
As of right this second, I'd rather have Maxey.
Okay.
And yeah, Jordan Poole is going to be a volume scorer with Washington. I just don't know how much other stuff he's going to do. But Joel Embiid, obviously the key to this whole thing. If he can stay healthy and play in 75, 80 games, he's going to win the MVP. The Sixers might win it all. But
I've done that.
Let
me tell you who takes my money. The Las Vegas Raiders and the Philadelphia 76ers.
with no James Harden around, that changes everything. So I don't know how Harden can play for Daryl Morey after the stuff he said this summer. But anyway, Jovan, go ahead.
Yeah, for me, win total, I might take the under in this case just because there's a lot of moving parts. And like you said, trying to figure out what's going to happen with James Harden. Is he going to show up? Is he not going to show up? I think that's a big question because if he doesn't, like you said, now that changes up your whole guard rotation with, Melton and Maxey. And then you got Pat Beverly and a whole lot of different parts with what they have. Paul Reed, Kelly Oubre, Mo Bamba, like, it's a lot for Nick Nurse to figure out, but I think he can figure out. But I think there's going to be an adjustment to figuring that out. So if I had to take a pick right now, I probably would take the under. But I think fantasy-wise, like you said, Melton and Maxey. Melton kind of fell off last year, especially in the playoffs. But early in the season, he was really good, and I think that should continue, this season.
Any sleepers, anybody down this roster we should be looking at later on in drafts?
Melton.
Javon? Melton. Yep, that's the guy.
Yeah, Melton. And maybe Paul Reed. Maybe Paul Reed. He's been in the gym shooting. So
all right, well, there you go. Paul Reed in the gym shooting. All right, for what that's worth. All right, most hated team in probably professional sports, the Boston Celtics. Got a big high win total at 55. Jrue Holiday on the team now, the addition of Kristaps Porzingis. They got the big dogs up there too with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Doc, the Boston Celtics, one of the premier franchises in the NBA.
Yep. Being a Pacers and Hawks guy my whole life, not my favorite team either.
Good.
Larry Bird was always in the way of everything my guys are trying to do. And now it's other guys like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and maybe Jrue Holiday. And now Jrue Holiday comes in and ruins my love for Derek White. So and they also have my coach or no, they don't. Never mind. Anyway, they're going to be very, very good. I mean, this roster, top to bottom, is just stacked. If Kristaps Porzingis, melts into that role of being the fourth guy, and Al Horford still has any pep left in his step, being almost a grandfather or whatever, this team's going to be scary.
All right, Javon, unfortunately, the Boston Celtics probably will be scary. Like, I'm not a big Kristaps Porzingis guy. I think Porzingis is a good player on a bad team. I think Boston's a good. I think next year this time I think they're going to find a way to run him. I don't think the fan base is going to take him because he doesn't play with that. Like, Jrue Holiday is a perfect Boston Celtic. Kristaps Porzingis to me is the opposite. What do you think?
Yeah, for the Celtics, I like their over on their win total. I think they won 57 last year, and I think between them and the Bucks, there's going to be a lot of jockeying for that number one seed in the East. So I do like their over on their win total. And like you said, I think defensively, that's going to be the thing for them. Like, losing Robert Williams is going to be a bigger loss than what we probably think with Porzingis. So yeah, I think Holiday is going to be fantastic there with playing next to Tatum and Brown. But it's going to be, like you said, can Porzingis stay healthy and kind of be that rim protector that Robert Williams was when he was healthy. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing, because we know Porzingis can rebound and score, which is an upgrade over Williams. But defensively, where the Celtics might suffer in the front court.
All right, there you go. That's the Atlantic Division right there. Breakdown for you fantasy-wise. Get you ready for the upcoming NBA season. Training camps getting ready to kick off this week. Media day in Philadelphia. No James Harden wearing the fat suit. So listen, it is what it is. We are back. The NBA is back, and we got you covered right here, Sportstopia. Got rankings and all of that good stuff up on the website right now. Steve Guys, Javon is doing work over there as well. And we'll be with you a couple days a week right here on the digital side right here. So don't forget, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that like button. Keep us in your presets. For Doc and my man Jovan is Corey Parson, the fantasy executive. We'll see you next time, Fantasy Fire and Ice NBA edition.